Hey everyone, welcome back to Chef's Advanced Building Guide. Today we're going to be talking all about towers. Whether it's a standalone build or part of an already existing one, towers are one of the most important structures for any medieval builds. They serve not just as a lookout point for the top of your castle, but also as a necessary tool to help fix multiple different issues in your structures. I'm going to say now that there are many tips in this video that will help you make standalone towers, but the primary focus is going to be about how to add towers to existing builds to make them even better than before. So if you're looking for a block for block guide on how to make towers themselves, then this probably isn't the place for you. This guide's goal is to help you understand the ideas behind tower placements and design, not necessarily how to build them. So with all that out of the way, let's dive right into the first lesson of the day. First, we're going to take a look at this small 3x3 tower here. Although it may not look as grand as the other two, this type of tower is without a doubt more important than them. I like to call this one the filler tower. Now the details and palette are completely interchangeable, but the idea here is to have a small, compact tower that can be placed on roofs or corners of walls or any nook and cranny where there might be a weird space in your build that doesn't quite match up right, which is often the case when you're trying to build on diagonal. They're also used to help create distinct variations in the profile of your build, whether that means a change in height or shape or anything else. They exist to add interesting features to whatever structure they're on. They're great to use on larger towers, as well as to add outcrops and to get that classic fantasy look. You'll get to see some of that in later designs. Now, coming over here to this quick mock-up that I made, you can start to see what I mean if you look at these three filler towers. Now, I know that there's a lot going on here, because I actually made this whole thing to convey a couple of different points, but for right now, just focus on the three towers. Looking at this build, it's essentially one big wall. Everything's connected, there's no gaps or breaks between any of the buildings. If you aren't careful when doing something like this, then it's very easy for things to get muddy and not look quite right. That's where these towers come in. They're essentially a gap, so to speak, that breaks up the wall into different, more easily digestible sections, which is good when you want to have a continuous structure that's all one big piece. It allows us to put all these different buildings and levels and overall chaos into the build while still having guidelines that our eyes can lock onto. Between these towers, you can clearly see two distinct sections. Here's section A, and here's section B. This allows me to have slightly different styles in each section without having to worry about how I'm going to blend them together in the middle. Section A is pretty chaotic. Looks more ramshackle, there's some indents in the walls, it's very organic shapes to the buildings. Section B, on the other hand, is much more organized, with clear borders between each building, and much more orderly shapes. Still not perfectly square though. I don't really like it when things look perfect or remove some of the character from the build, but that's besides the point. With these towers, I don't have to worry about combining these two styles at all. It makes the building process so much easier on bigger, more complex buildings like this one. Another use for the 3x3s is something that I'm going to keep bringing up throughout the video, and that is the silhouette of the build. Essentially the skyline of it. These add nice points that can break up the skyline and make it a little more interesting, but they shouldn't be your main tool to do so. That would be the second type of tower that we have here. I want to apologize for all the voice cracks and everything. My voice is so dry right now. It is like 90 degrees in this room and I can't have like any AC or fans on while I'm recording this, so bear with me here. Anyways, this type of tower is what I like to call the structure tower. This is going to be your bread and butter choice for adding shape to your build, while also creating a distinct skyline that will improve the scale and quality of whatever you're building. If we look back to our little mock-up here, then you can see these, then you can see two of these towers, one on either side. As you can see, they help to create big peaks along the skyline, breaking it up, almost like a mountain range of differing heights. If this wall was the same height all the way around, then it wouldn't look natural. It would be pretty bland and it's not really going to draw anyone's attention to it. A little tip for the skyline of your build is to never have your structure towers be the same height or shape. They can be similar, but never the same. Remember, we're going for a mountain range, not a saw blade. Now, these towers can be used for the ends of big walls, standalone structures, or as part of a bigger build, just to add more shape. They're extremely versatile and are your basic kind of tower that everyone thinks of. They can be detailed in whichever manner you like to fit the theme of your build. One of their most important functions is to graduate your skyline up to the level of the next type of tower. We'll go over that in a second, so that your builds have a gradient. Again, we want that skyline to look like a mountain range, very natural looking. It would be very strange if it went, straight from the ground level to some grand, enormous tower. You have to build up height around it so that it doesn't look so lonely, and that's what these structure towers are used for. This is also the level where you can start to get more creative with your decorations, unlike the 3x3 towers before. I know that when I'm building, no two structure towers look the same. It adds unique interest for whoever's going to see your build. It makes them want to explore more, see what the next one has to offer, and besides, if you're like me, then you hate seeing those copy and pasted towers on huge castle builds. They all look the same. I think it's a little lazy. It's not very interesting. So get creative with these types of towers. Have differing heights, different details. Tack on a 3x3 tower on the corner. Just go crazy. But make sure you still keep them unified with the rest of the build, whether that's through their style, or their color palette, or whatever architecture type they use. Keep that unity. It's very important. And the last type of tower that I want to talk about are your central towers. These are what you've been building your skyline up to, the highest points of your build, the culmination of the structure. Think of them like the crown of your build. Every king has to have a flashy crown, right? These are what you're going to showcase the best of your abilities with and focus most of your time on, because this is where the viewer of the build is going to spend the most of their time looking. It's what initially draws the eyes into the structure. It's so important that you get it right. There are a few things that central towers must convey and establish. Your style, your palette, your scale, and the unity. That's the unity of the whole build. Everything else in this build has to match this main tower in those categories. It's the statement piece, it's the introductory paragraph of an essay, it's the fancy mermaid on the bow of a ship. It sets the tone and it maintains it. Oftentimes these central towers, or could just be one tower, it doesn't matter how many you have really, are what I create first when I'm building something. They act as a foundation that you can build upon and create out from. They're a fantastic tool for the builder because it's essentially like a trial run for the rest of the build. Sometimes I spend 10 hours creating a central tower, and that's not a joke, unfortunately, solidifying the palette that I want to use, deciding the right height and scale of the build, determining the types of shapes or architectural styles that I want to use. I spend all that time focusing on getting that tower right, because once it's finished, you not only have made the tower itself, but you created the blueprint to follow for the rest of the build. You already have the palette, you already have the style, so on and so forth. One mistake that I see a lot of people make with these towers has to do with them putting the towers smack dab in the middle of the build. You never want to do that. Never put them directly in the middle. I won't get into an art lesson here, but I implore you to look up the rule of thirds. It's a principle of photography and other types of art mediums that basically says what I just said. Always put the central focus of the build off-center. Or if it's in photography, just the central focus of the picture. I'm just putting it in Minecraft terms. Anyways, the reason you do that is so that you can create balance without symmetry. Some people like symmetry. I don't. Again, I'm always going for that natural look. I'm going for that mountain range look. If you want another art lesson, you could look up balance to understand what I mean by that as well. It'll help you in figuring out how your skyline should look, but that's if you just want to go extra and above and beyond. Alright, and that about covers everything that I wanted to talk about. Again, this wasn't meant to be any sort of block for block tutorial. I'm not holding your hand here. But this also wasn't meant to be some sort of collegiate level art lesson, so sorry about all that fancy stuff at the end there, about the balance and the rule of thirds. You don't got to worry too much about that. I just wanted to give you the basic ideas and get your inspiration flowing. So thank you to everyone who made it this far. It means a lot to me. So have a great day, everybody.